eagle eyes at finding specific talents that were outside the obvious box of warfare, and went and grabbed her, trained her for a couple of months, and then threw her into Occupied France with these guys. What really attracted me to the part when I read the Bible was her courage. And sometimes people say, no, courage doesn't exist, it's only for stories, but I think courage is not what we think it is. I don't know who said that, courage is not the absence of fear, it's the capacity to face it. And I really admire people who have that, and she definitely has that, but she's also extremely passionate, and she will be put in situations where she will need to be in a position of leadership. I hope I'm not saying too much, but I think as a woman playing a female character that has to do that in 1942 really excited me to a very special level, because I feel like the more there is of that in fiction, the more there is of that in life, which is always a good thing, you know. So how's that for a start?
Perfect. And Connor, tell us a little.
It's a group of characters. It's in this adventure. It's an action. It's exciting. It's dramatic, and it has all these checkpoints that we can actually focus on. So we actually will market less on the history of it, because that's sometimes the first place we go, and more toward the adventure and excitement and this wonderful cast of characters.
It's interesting. Social media is becoming huge, as everybody here on the panel knows. Does that play into it as well? And how do you kind of work social media into that? You know, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, things like that.
Social media is a marketer's favorite tool. I mean, I hope everybody here tonight is going to be tweeting about this wonderful event and how awesome this trailer is, right? Thank you.
How have you seen that kind of evolve at CBC with the marketing of projects? Is it changing from year to year?
I've been in this job for 4 months as the creative director, so it's changed.
How has it changed in the last 4 months?
I'm just going to take a stab and say it's changed radically in 4 months. No, we're having a blast. We've got these new exciting products that we're delivering, and Sarah and the programming team are working really hard to really energize the Canadian television landscape, and it's magnificent to be a part of it and part of this wonderful production.
For the showrunners, for Mark and Stephanie, this industry down in the U.S., it seems as though there's more of a focus on showrunners. You know, whether it be an Aaron Sorkin or a J.J. Abrams. In Canada, we don't seem to have that, and maybe you guys are the wrong people to ask, but I feel as though there isn't enough of that being done in Canada, because there are a lot of showrunners, Peter Mitchell with Murdoch Mysteries, that don't get kind of the recognition. Do you guys think that there should be more of a focus the way that they do in the U.S. model and focusing on showrunners, or are you cool with being in the background?
Very cool with being in the background, obviously, but I think that it's not so much that we want showrunners to be household names here. I think it's more that we want showrunners to be empowered to deliver their creative vision. And you know, it's a relatively new phenomenon. We have some good, strong showrunners here, and I think that there are writers making the choice to stay here in Canada as the ship kind of steers in a bit of a different direction, and production companies are empowering their creative people a little bit more. And one of the reasons we really wanted to come to Temple Street, one of many reasons, was I think, as John very eloquently put it, their mandate is to choose showrunners they believe in, empower them to deliver their vision, and be there to be not only put the finances of the show together, but to be there as creative supports as much as we need them. And so they've been terrific partners in that sense. But I think that there's television can get done by committee very easily. And it's not to say that it shouldn't. I think that television, in some ways, is very much like theater for me. We all come from a theater background here, and theater is about collaboration. Television is about collaboration, because you you need the insight of your broadcaster and the kind of show that they want to see. You need the creative backbone of the producers that you've worked with, who have done more shows than Stephanie and I have done. It's only our second show, but I think that it's also important that there is singularity of vision. And this is an interesting show because it's not, Alfred and his condition, there's a lot of stuff we're doing that's a little outside the box on this one. We're bringing in layers of CGI and digital effects to represent his synesthesia. The costumes kind of lived in and loose. Their hair is not always perfectly coiffed. Their makeup is not always perfect. We're looking at, very contemporary scoring in places in the show, and fortunately we have the support of our broadcaster, of our production company, to look at this work as it's in progress and as we're shooting it, and have the confidence in us to say, okay, we know that you know where you're headed, so we're going to let you do what you do and trust that this finished product that we haven't really seen before is going to be what you believe in.
Will there be headstones music in the soundtrack?
Well, if Hugh Dillon has anything to do with it.
Can you talk a little bit about the CGI and how you're representing the synesthesia?
You can say we started with a very explicit and dramatic conception of what it would be like, and the more the stories developed, the more we saw the emotional moments that the synesthesia were actually going to be involved in, we started to realize that less was going to be more. That the more understated it is, the more you actually engage the imagination of the person watching it, and not just the imagination, but also the senses, probably. So our first ideas for, say, Alfred entering into a jazz club and hearing a jazz singer singing full voice and beautiful, just beautiful, powerful music, that there would be maybe something dancing, something radiant, something. But the more we think about it, the more subtle it is, the more evocative it is, really. So we're being extremely selective about the moments that we heighten that way. There are moments where his overload of senses troubles him and it impairs his ability to function. There's other moments where the senses become something explosively sensual and beautiful and transcendent, and we're heightening those as well. But since we don't want this to be all about special effects overshadowing the human experience of them, we're being very selective about that. So as people will see at the end of episode 2, there's a special bond that starts between Aurora and Alfred, and that's all about the color blue, and it's all about the sound and texture and taste of the color blue for Alfred. And he starts to connect this to Aurora's presence in a way that I think it's a way that romance hasn't been expressed before, but we really did not want to lay it on with a shovel. We wanted this to be delicate and evanescent and something that is very easily lost if it's talked about too much. It was, in fact, in the book, the original book that started our interest in the original synesthete, it talked about his sensory experience of every day, but it only mentioned in passing at the end that he'd been married. And this has been a driving question for us since 15 years ago when we started researching this. What would it be like to fall in love as a synesthete? To have all 5 senses involved in the perception of the beloved? What would it be like to speak her name? What would it be like to remember them if every memory is as present as the present was? You can literally be with them at any moment because the present and the past are the same. So a synesthete's experience of love is very different and so much more sensual than an ordinary person. So this is just an example of some of the things we wanted to explore without making them too explicit.